Good morning, good evening, whatever time you're listening. Welcome to episode 4 of The Practical People. I am your host, Christopher Moonlight, with my co-host, as ever, Mr. Jack Ritchie. Jack, thanks for being back on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. Things are keeping me very busy, which is a great thing, but it's always a pleasure to take some time out and chat with you and some very cool people.
Yeah, I'm excited about today. So first off, we want to cover our current events. The H.R. Giger documentary Dark Star is arriving in selected theaters now, and is going to be available on video on demand, I believe. I'm very excited about it.
As am I.
And we're going to bring in our guests to talk about that. I'd like to introduce from Makeup Effects Group in Australia, Mr. Nick Nicola and Paul Caddy. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How are you?
We are well. Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for having us on board.
So I assume that you guys are both fans of H.R. Giger. Are you looking forward to this documentary?
Absolutely. I saw it mentioned on Facebook and a few other websites months ago, and I've been keeping my eye out on when it was going to be released. And when I saw the trailer for it, it looked wonderful. So very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think Alien was one of those movies that still holds up today. But I remember I was taken to see it when I was very young, and I was snuck into the cinema, and I don't think I've ever been the same since.
Yeah, well, I think that holds true for most of us. I've always kind of claimed that, not claimed, but I felt that H.R. Giger kind of revolutionized the movie monster, and ever since then, as many great movie monsters as we've had, it doesn't seem like his bar has been met yet, and there certainly hasn't been anything as unique looking as his creature since. It's either derivative or your standard hairy monster or scaly monster or slimy monster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is hard to design any character and make him unique, and once someone raises the bar as the Giger alien and his designs did, there is a lot of fall off from that, and you can still feel it today. But it was a great time, and it was in a great film, so it became iconic, and everyone falls back on that, remembers it.
I think that I know for me there's definitely I don't think I've ever kind of designed a satisfactory creature without looking at it going like, but it'll never be as good as Giger. But I mean, that's just me. What about you, Jack? What are
Giger has been and still is a huge influence on me. He's one of my favorite artists, period. And just the worlds and the universe that he creates in his work is just phenomenal. And you're right, something that I've never seen something come close to it without being derivative of it.
And another thing about it, I think that his work has become so universally known and accepted, and originally, I was talking to a gentleman that saw one of Giger's first American exhibits in Los Angeles, and said there was actually, you could see spit on the window of the gallery because people would walk by and be offended, and they would literally, spit on the window to show their displeasure. And now he's probably one of the world's most celebrated modern artists. I mean, not just as a special effects artist, but just an artist in general. And Nick, I know you're a great appreciator of poster art and design work. I've watched your Facebook, and you are constantly kind of pointing out other great works of art that you admire.
Absolutely. I collect a lot of art, and it always inspires me. I have it all around home and at the studio, and it's a big influence on both Paul and myself and our work, and just inspiring us as artists. And And Geiger was, he wasn't just a monster creator. He was an artist. He's totally, set up a world, and even his home life is iconic, and that's the importance of this documentary. It's going to show a lot more than just his movie creations. It's going to show what the man was.
It was almost like a Salvador Dali, a modern day Salvador Dali. The influence of his work and how unique it was, was up there with Salvador Dali, I reckon, or even more so.
I would agree with that, definitely.
He definitely had the hallucinatory Freudian quality to it, and I just love that he didn't hold back. I think that's really something that I see a lot of artists doing, which is a shame. There's, times where you can see they want to take it someplace, but they're afraid. And Giger was never afraid. He kind of he went for it. There's on the website for the documentary, there's beautiful photographs of his studio and his backyard. Anybody ever been to Switzerland, perchance, to see his museum?
Unfortunately, not. No.
Someday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they're also going to open a Giger bar, so in America, and I think they're going to kind of franchise that out. So maybe we'll get lucky enough to have one near us.
Absolutely, and even in the documentary, I think it mentions how most artists are afraid to go all the way and really, show what's inside them and try to express themselves. Where, he was no holds bar. He just, he was who he was, and he expressed, the dark side of who he was.
And we all know how much trouble Jello Biafra got in for the Frankenchrist album.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Dead Kennedys fan, and I remember that whole story coming on, when he did the spoken word about it and how he was, interrogated by the LAPD and just for an album cover. But yeah.
Yeah, that was Tipper Gore's thing.
Yep.
She went after him and Ice-T as well.
Yeah.
Of course, Ice-T mentioned in one of his Body Count songs that he fell in love with Tipper Gore's 12-year-old nieces, so that might have had something to do with his end of it. But
is that how we got on Law and Order SVU?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's probably his punishment. He's been he's been sent to that purgatory. No, just kidding. But no, I mean, the Frankenchrist album was an amazing cover, and I think when people delve into their darker side, it doesn't mean that they are that dark and perverse and evil. It's just, we can all dig for that and come up with interesting stuff. Now, I want to move on to something that seems like it actually may have been a little bit H.R. Giger influenced, and it's probably one of the most famous movies that you guys have worked on, which is the original Matrix and its follow-up sequels. Did you guys know when you were working on that stuff that it was going to be such a major movie?
The only time I had an inkling of it was when, we were working on it, and the guys were really cool, and, it was all, they knew exactly what they were doing. They were very laid back, and it was all storyboarded. I mean, they spent like 10 years writing it, so I think they were very clear of what their vision was. But it was only at the sort of rap party where they played the government lobby sequence.
Oh.
They obviously, it wasn't finished. It had, wires in it, and it wasn't all cleaned up. But they played that whole, as well as some other scenes, but they played the whole, Trinity and Neo coming into the government lobby and doing that whole, battle. And I just remember thinking to myself, this is going to be pretty huge, because it was basically, it was manga, live action manga. That's what they sort of, went out to achieve, and they'd sort of done it. But it was pretty impressive, because we weren't involved with stuff like that because we were doing our baby stuff, and most of our stuff was shot second unit, so we weren't on the main sort of action unit because it had none of. We did a few arm breaks and stuff, but especially that government lobby sequence, we weren't really there, so we never saw any of that shot. We saw the storyboards, but I just remember thinking, wow, this is going to be huge.
There's now talking about the baby stuff. You guys are referring to the scene where they're kind of going back, telling the story of how the machines harvest human beings, and you see essentially babies being raised at birth with the tubes coming in them, and that's really what struck me as H.R. Giger influenced, and I think we've seen that influence before with the kind of man and machine. And you guys did the little belly button probe, right? That went into Keanu Reeves' stomach.
Well, but what people don't know is that whole torso was an animatronic puppet. That wasn't Keanu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in some of our behind-the-scenes footage, we've got a whole upper torso of the bug going into Keanu's navel, and it worked really well. All the designs were from Jeff Durrow.
Wow.
We've still got all the storyboards and all the baby designs that Durrow did. So there was a Giger influence, but there was a strong Jeff Durrow, background to the whole design. The guys were amazing. We really didn't know what the film was going to be like. The guys were really nice to us. They brought us on board. They saw two young artists. We were really well prepared. We had all designs. We pulled a lot of reference of manga, anime videos, and they saw we really wanted to do it, and they gave us a great opportunity. And we got on really well. It was a great time.
I think one of the first things they said in our meeting was, "Well, I guess you guys know the genre."
That's fantastic. It's nice to know when people trust that you know what you're doing and you're able to kind of show and answer those questions, that sort of thing. And for our listeners who don't know who Jeff Darrow is, he is known for his comic book work. He worked on a 2-part story with Frank Miller called Hard Boiled, which is definitely a strange and dark comic book and insanely detailed. Now that you bring up his name, I can see the influence of it, and I'm also thrilled to know that probe that went into the belly button torso was actually an animatronic and not CGI, like I'm sure some people assumed.
Yeah, it was all practical. There was only one shot of the CG bug where it sort of starts just before it goes in the belly button. It crawls across the torso, but it's on our animatronic torso, and then all of it is when it goes in is the bug, and also that same torso was used when they take it out in the car. That was all our torso and our bug. So Keanu wasn't involved with any of that.
Yeah, when the bug comes out of the navel, there was all the little wires and probes underneath the silicon skin that pushed it in all different directions and made it look like there was a bug trying to escape from there. So that there wasn't any VFX manipulation at that stage. It was all practical, wires and cables and
in
things
camera.
like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm a big fan of actually all the Matrix movies. The later ones kind of got harped on, but I actually really did enjoy those, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm a Keanu Reeves fan as well.
Absolutely.
But that reminds me, you guys mentioned reference, and we actually have a listener question from Danny Enriquez. She asks, what are your favorite references besides Google for sculpting? Any good books out there?
Yeah, well, what's his book? Len Terry. What's his name? Those books we got.
Oh, God, that
Yeah,
just caught us out there. Well, we go to Stan Winston's site a lot, and we
just
Google
go on Facebook. There's so many great sculptors on Facebook.
Yeah, there's so many great artists out there. If you're, on Facebook, of course, nearly everyone is. That people are posting such amazing work. It's really opened up the industry.
Well, what about like anatomical references, or I mean, some I know some effects artists and even general artists keep a copy of Grey's Anatomy on their bookshelf.
Sure, we've got all that, and it's all job specific. If we're doing an animal, we'll go out and buy a whole bunch of books and reference. So we build up our library per per job basically, but
Or get a model in.
yeah, or go out to the zoo and photograph stuff, or take photos of our own hands and things like that. So it comes from everywhere, and yeah.
And that reminds me, speaking of animals, I was just watching The Wolverine the other day.
Yes.
And the Wolverine had to unfortunately put down an injured bear. And I believe you guys had something to do with that too. Did you kill a bear?
We did not kill a bear.
We built the bear.
We built the bear over about 10 weeks.
Yeah, that was a huge job.
Yeah, it didn't really get shown as well as we thought. Like it was pouring rain. It looked great in the film, but we built something quite amazing, and we were hoping it would get in there a little longer. But that happens all the time with effect sequences. You put so much time and effort and heart into them, and then they're on screen for like a few seconds if you're lucky.
We've got some puppeteering tests on our YouTube channel, which shows it in the studio being, puppeteered for the first time, which looks really cool.
I did watch that video, and it looked really great. And I understand that happens often. In talking to Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff over at Studio ADI, they had a similar complaint with, they worked on Aliens versus Predator Requiem. Not my favorite movie, actually, but they darkened the entire film so much nobody could see anything that was going on. And they said the same thing. I wish people could see the work we did.
Yeah,
absolutely. Those guys do great work, and yeah, it's true right across the board. You don't know how it's going to be shot. You don't know how it's going to be covered. So you have to do your best work all the time, and if it gets on there for a few seconds, then it gets on there. Sometimes, you can't skimp on stuff, and then it gets on there for longer, and people see faults. You always have to be at the top of your game, really.
And I think probably when it gets on set too, the impression that it makes matters to the people there, and they probably remember that for future work.
Yeah, that's true. That's so important. You take like when the bear was on set, and when we applied the fake chest to Hugh Jackman, as soon as it's on set, that first impression is so powerful. You can see people's heads turn, and people get used to it after a few hours, but those first few minutes are pretty powerful. You're absolutely correct.
I've got a little story about that. When we were setting up the bear, that they were shooting on top of the mountain. This was shot out west of Sydney in the Blue Mountains. And they had made up this mountain to look like Alaska with the fake snow and everything. But they were shooting Hugh on top for all that stuff at the beginning of the film when he's sort of wandering in the wilderness. And we were setting up the bear down the bottom. This is obviously a night shoot, and they broke for lunch. And about 10 minutes before they broke for lunch, the director and the producers and everyone came down just to see. They said, okay, let's just do a quick rehearsal to see what the bear could do. And then the director was saying, okay, well, why don't we have it do this? And so we were with the puppeteers, and we're doing a bit of a rehearsal, and the whole crew was just standing there watching, and we just went through the motions of, what the director wanted, and he said, okay, great, that's really cool, yeah, okay, let's do that. Okay, let's have the head rear up. And after about 15 minutes, he went, great, we'll shoot it after lunch, and everyone clapped. It was like bizarre.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, this is... I think that everyone that gets to be on a set is there because they have some, for the most part, love of movie magic, and I think moments like that are great. I think that's probably one of the reasons why so many people remain so passionate about practical effects, is because the actors, I've talked to actors about this all the time, you're there in the moment, and the more convincing that is, the better performance that they can get, and the excitement, the energy is there.
Absolutely. The art director for the Wolverine came up to us after. He's a really good friend of ours, and he says, I never get a round of applause for my work. Yeah, anyway.
It sort of keeps you going when you've been, doing 15-hour days for 12 weeks, and you sort of go, well, what the hell are we doing this for?
Now, you guys also, you've worked on some other really big movies, The Chronicles of Narnia and The Hobbit as well, the Peter Jackson movie.
Yes.
Um,
I went on set as a makeup artist and did Bomber for 10 months over in New Zealand. I was working working for, Weta, as an on-set makeup artist. So I always find that fun to do, just to go over and be an on-set makeup artist, because you get to work with other artists around the world, and, it's not, you can just focus on doing, your thing. It's not like, it was our gig, but we can just, I can just sit there as an artist and just be a prosthetic makeup artist, and it's quite, it's good. It's good for the soul.
yeah, just get into your work. Now, working with Weta, you guys actually have quite a relationship with Weta. You guys have a project that you kind of been working on that Weta was, if I'm correct in saying this, they were interested in, or they were producing, called Paradise Lost.
Yes, that's correct. We're really good friends with Richard Taylor.
Known him for 25 years.
And we knew that they were asking for script submissions for feature film projects. And I submitted my project called Paradise Lost. There was 50 to 100 submissions, and they picked my project as the one they wanted to greenlight and make under their new studio banner. They were doing an offset of Weta. I forgot what it was going to be called. And then that was greenlit. We were having meetings, and then it kind of all fell through because one of their other projects that they've been trying to get up for 5 years, an internal project, a TV show, got greenlit, and they kind of put mine on the back burner, and everything started to fall away after that. But we've picked up on that project again, and we're pushing really hard to get it made.
Well, the trailer, you have a concept trailer on your website, which looks phenomenal. It's beautifully shot and really intense. Some of these images, I have my own clown phobia. I see that there's an evil clown on there. I think there's kind of like there was the zombie meta. We're seeing all these zombie movies, and zombies got really big. And now I'm a little concerned because I do have a real clown phobia. So does my wife, and I'm seeing clowns are getting popular. There's I think Eli Roth has a clown movie, if I'm correct, and Poltergeist is being remade with the clown being featured in the trailer, and there's Circus of the Dead, and
Rob Zombie's new film 31 has a clown.
Yeah. So,
Oh, okay.
What are you guys trying to do to me here?
We're ahead of our time. We didn't know it.
But I guess it all started with Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Ah, classic.
Yeah, I'm blocking on the brothers.
Kyoto
The Kyoto Brothers. Thank you. It wasn't coming to me. The Kyoto Brothers. Yeah, they kind of the same thing. They wanted. That's an independent film. They had an idea for this and how to do it on a budget, and it was hilarious and terrifying.
It was a very fun film.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to get my wife to watch it, though. She's flat out refused. So, can you give us any background on Paradise Lost, or do you kind of have to keep it under your hat a bit?
There's information on the website, but it is quite a serious supernatural thriller. It's not like one of my zombie films or anything like that. There's a lot of dark religious overtones, but basically it's a guy who's lost the love of his life to a tragic murder, and he can't come to terms with it. He challenges, his faith and religion, and why his wife was taken away, and then he kind of goes into a dark place, and all these supernatural, strange things start happening. And but it's set in a real world, and all those things find their way into his life, and we don't know if he's going mad or if he's actually seen these things. And 3 stories come together at the end and kind of make sense. So it's 3 people's paths coming together at the end. It's all fractured, the storyline, and You got to really keep in tune with what's going on because there's all little clues throughout the whole film, and they make sense at the end. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting it made one day.
Seven Meets Jacob's Ladder. Is that the pitch?
Yeah, there's a lot of Jacob's Ladder influence in it.
Oh,
There's,
nice.
Yeah, a lot of Seven, like the darkness of it and things like that. But,
well, I think you guys are you're in good company because here you are making what people might refer to as an elevated horror movie in Australia, where there was just a big successful Australian independent horror movie, The Babadook.
Yes.
And so maybe you've got some people looking your way as well.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Again, this project has been close to being greenlit several times, and we're talking to people now. So, hopefully this one doesn't fall through. Hopefully the connection. It's hard making a film, and it's hard making a film for the first time to get that your legs to stand on to move forward.
And it's hard in Australia as well, especially with distribution. It's hard to convince the Australian sort of funding bodies that how viable something like this could be. It's you're sort of dealing with bureaucracy a bit. So there's a lot of films being made, a lot of independent horror films, and they just don't see the light of day because the country doesn't get behind them, or the sort of established film bodies don't get behind it because they just don't understand it. They just think it's schlock or it's rubbish, or doesn't matter how good it is. And I think the Babadook was a really good example because did it get distributed here?
Yeah. Well, in the end, you have to put your own money up, and you have to find your own independent avenues to get a project made, and that's kind of where we're going now.
That's a good thing because I think that in this in the world of kind of globalized internet and electronic distribution, it is possible to do. I'm kind of surprised to hear what you're saying actually, because I mean here in America and in the kind of like Mexico and South America, there's a huge market. People are starving for good horror movies, and I think the big complaint is that there aren't ones that are kind of meeting their expectations, but they're definitely hungry for them. Did you guys always want to be filmmakers, or did you start wanting to be creature and effects artists and kind of roll into it? Because I'm seeing this is a trend. I mean, Amalgamated Dynamics has Harbinger Down. There was our last interview, Hiroshi. I'm not even going to try and say his last name because I keep butchering it. I feel so bad. But what's that?
Category? Is it category?
That's what I said, and I think he said I did it wrong. But yeah, Hiroshi, we'll say Hiroshi Kataguri. Gahana, he just funded his movie through Kickstarter. Tom Woodruff Jr. Directed Fire City, Interpreter of Signs, and now he's gearing up to do another one called Sideshow. Stan Winston School of Character Arts is actually kind of getting their students together and encouraging them to produce their own content. So it seems to me like a lot of effects artists are kind of taking matters into their own hands now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember growing up in high school shooting Super 8 movies and doing the makeup for them. I think when you've been doing makeup and creature effects, and obviously you're into that genre, you want to make those type of films, and you've been on film sets for 25 years, you sort of work out that you can probably make a film better than a lot of the people that you're working for. And which is probably, you come to a certain level when you're doing effects that you sort of start thinking of your own sort of stories and your own vision of something. And because you know how films are made and know how effects are created, it's not that it's easy, but you just sort of know, oh, well, maybe we should do this, this, and this, and if we have this story, it's actually quite a very logical progression.
I think it's almost like what we were talking about with H.R. Giger and artists kind of shying away from digging as deep as they could I think one of my complaints, and of course this doesn't apply to all modern horror movies. There are great modern horror movies, but there are a lot of movies I see where I go, and maybe this is just me getting older and curmudgeonly, like those whippersnappers don't know how to make good horror movies. But, I think about the original Alien and James Cameron's Aliens, The Thing, even kind of campier movies like Reanimator and From Beyond, and even going campier, Return to the Living Dead 3. There are all these wonderful horror movies that really, they push the envelope, and I almost feel like a lot of horror movies are playing it safe now. And I could certainly imagine being on a set and seeing decisions being made and just kind of thinking to yourself, well, that's not what got me into the industry. That's not what got me into wanting to do this. I imagine that's kind of what motivates you.
Yeah, absolutely. We did grow up loving, creature films, Universal monsters. That's what got us into what we do. But it was also films and filmmaking. Back then we didn't know the path into how to make your own film. I wanted to be a cameraman because I thought a cameraman made a film. I had no idea when I was growing up. It was always, how do you do that? How do you make a film? But, the effects side took over. That was our greatest influence. And, we're kind of coming back to the roots of, we want to include some of our ideas and our creature ideas into our own projects.
And then, of course, you see your careers advisor in high school and say you want to do special makeup effects, and they're like, what? But we have a lot of young people that work with us or assist us or do work experience with us that, we say, have you seen The Thing? Have you seen The Hunger? Have you seen Taxi Driver? And they're like, no, what? And we're like, get out, go and see these movies because, these are the films that got us into the, that bit of, got us into the industry. So it was like a lot of, not all of them, but, some of the new kids haven't seen these great films, and it's tragic in some ways.
It's not just the great special effects, but the great storytelling and the great camera work. It all kind of syncs together.
Exactly.
I mean, there are some really great new stories being told, but I feel a lot of the stories are kind of lackluster. And then another thing, I was talking about this with someone the other day. They were watching a short film, and they said, well, I think these special effects are pretty good. Look at what they did with such a limited budget. And I was looking at what they did, and they did do a good job, but what I thought the real shame of it was whoever was the cinematographer and whoever was handling the lighting didn't know how to light it and shoot it so it really looked as good as it could. And I think that there's a lot of past movies that people look at and go, why are the special effects not as good now as they were then? And I want to say, well, actually, a lot of them are better, but you're not seeing them properly shot and lit.
Yeah.
And featured as well. They're not integrated into the story. The story, once that integration happens, then it jumps over to, CGI effects so quickly. People, are using that as a crutch, and, there's amazing stuff out there. But, like ADI did, Alec and Tom, they featured a lot of their work in their own projects, and, that's what we're coming back to.
Now, I mean, not that there is a lot of CGI that I do like. I have nothing against CGI, but you did mention the idea of using it as a crutch. And I was reading the comments on the new Terminator Genesis trailer, and a lot of people were looking at that and going, it doesn't look as good. It doesn't, and I think that integration is a big part of it. But yeah, there's a lot of that kind of CGI crutch going on where they've learned to spot it. It doesn't fool the eye like it used to. And even though the CGI is getting better, it seems like it's not doing any better at fooling the eye, except in the most rare instances where, they really do an amazing job with it Planet of the Apes, I think, is a good example.
Sure.
Yeah.
On set, if something isn't working, or you can't get your shot done in 10 minutes at the end of the day, they're pushing major effect sequences to the last shot of the day and not giving you time to like work out the effect and block it out and cover it properly. They get lazy and they go, all right, we'll create this in VFX, we'll do this, we'll do there's just not enough time. So things are so rushed now. I'm sure it's always been like that, but I've steadily seen it get worse and worse as the technology's getting better on the VFX side.
We did a film in Australia called Red Ink. I think it was renamed in America called Inhuman Resources. We actually did that with Tom Savini. He actually came out here and he actually had an Australian girlfriend at the time, and he recommended us for this film, and he came on set as a consultant, but we did all the rigs, and we were shooting this scene, this cutthroat gag, and the producer was like, okay, we're going to shoot this, and he's like, no, we're not shooting anything yet. We're going to rehearse this without blood and get all the timing right with the camera, with everyone, the actors, and we're not pumping any blood until we've got it all nailed down. And the producer was, okay, we've got to shoot it, and we rehearsed it for about half an hour, got all the timing right, and we shot it in one take. And everyone clapped at the end of it. It was like, well, that's how you do it. Otherwise, if we had to do several takes and clean up the blood, it would have taken all day.
Yeah, it's Shannon Shea has a similar story too, except his was at a production meeting where he talked to the wardrobe, and I almost wish his experience was the same as yours, because they're all at the table and they say, well, how are we going to do this slit throat gag? And he said, well, how long does it take to set up? And he said, well, it takes this long, and then if you want a second take, it takes this long. And they're looking at each other, and they look at the wardrobe. The wardrobe person's going, well, how many shirts are you going to need? Because it's going to bleed all over the shirts. And the producers got nervous, and they said, and somebody said, well, we can just do that in the computer. And everyone kind of just breathed a sigh of relief. But of course, that CGI blood, unless you're doing something really stylized like 300, you can spot it. Certainly on The Walking Dead, I can spot it every time a zombie gets a headshot, and they just, paint it in after the fact. So, Jack, do you have any questions? You always become kind of the silent partner. I get into things.
Well, actually, I do. You were talking earlier about inspiration and research and stuff like that, and I was just curious, being in Australia, is there something inspirational, be it nature or animal, that you guys can draw in inspiration from that people in other parts of the world can't?
That's an interesting question.
Indigenous?
I don't know if we've ever gone down that direction where we found something so unique here that it's influenced our design or our work so much. It's, again, we look across the board. If it's an animal, an insect, we don't just look at everything's so public these days. Everything's on the internet. I don't think there is that uniqueness of location or that would influence a design so much. I think maybe your upbringing and what you've seen around you possibly would influence you as an artist, but generally you spread your thoughts and as wide as possible, just to get as much influence and ideas as possible.
Probably, if anything, some of the Australian directors in the 70s, the Peter Weirs, the Fred Skepsis that did those really great movies during the 70s would be, very dark, sort of, almost, what's the word, chilling, haunting sort of movies. Like some of Peter Weir's early films were very, very unique in that way. And I think that was we had a very unique industry at that time. And then it sort of changed during the 80s, and, it's gone on as it has. But I think during that Australian cinema renaissance, there were some really great movies that were made that were really great influence.
There's something I want to ask you guys about, because you talked about kind of spreading out, across the board. There's a non-movie project that you guys were involved in with an artist named Patricia. Again, another last name that I'll get wrong. Piccini.
I think it's something like Piccinini.
Piccinini. So this is actually a very interesting art exhibit that she did that went viral on the internet, and it's prosthetic children and prosthetic strange creatures kind of coexisting together in a very serene but strange and kind of disturbing way. What was that experience like? Were you guys just kind of backing her up, or did she come to you to create these things?
Well, yeah, she came to us to create these things. She's a great artist, and she won the Biennale quite a few years back. But she brings on other artists to do components of her work, and she designs them and creates a story behind them. But we created about 5 or so pieces for her, and her whole design sense is, these amorphous creatures, blended into the real world. You don't quite know what they are. They might look like a dugong, but there's these unusual elements to its anatomy, and that's what she became known for. But we created some amazing works for her. We knew what we were getting into. It was purely an artist for hire kind of scenario where we did the sculptures, we created the silicon pieces, painted them, and they went to her as an artist. It's an unusual situation, but it happens all the time.
I actually, in reading some of the comments, some people believed that these silicone children that you made were real children interacting with these things. There were people commenting like, if I was that kid, I wouldn't get that close to it. So.
That happened on Instagram. I was posting photos on our Instagram page, and people were saying, which part's real? I see that there's a creature, but is the kid real? Or which is good.
Every time we post work, we kind of mention it's a silicon display, but we keep forgetting to mention like the human characters are part of that display, and then we start seeing the comments, and then we kind of have to change the description to mention that yes, the human element is fake as well.
There's kind of a trend right now where people will take an image and try and push it through the internet in a viral way, saying that this is real. There's Hiroshi Kataguri created mermaids that someone tried to produce photos of and put them online and say this is real. ADI, the Queen face hugger for Alien 3, someone posted a picture of that went viral saying that this was an actual creature they found in the ocean. And, of course, the infamous Steven Spielberg shot a triceratops. Isn't he horrible?
I believed that for a while.
Well, I've actually got a picture of Shannon Shea with that same dinosaur that he sent me, and I saw that picture going viral again, and I kind of, I very humorously posted that picture in the comments and going, and this guy helped.
Yeah, the technology's is pretty incredible these days. That unless it's so far out there like the Spielberg Triceratops thing, it is really hard to see if a video or a photo has been manipulated. And times are changing. It is pretty hard even for us to see something like that.
I was wondering, have you guys ever seen anything you've created kind of come up in that capacity, or is it just the incident with the children?
No, probably just the children. I don't think. No. No.
So
Someone should do the Bigfoot again.
yeah, no, someone tried to do one here, and it wasn't very well done. But the effects artist of that, I guess he was kind of disgruntled, kind of came forward, and because so many people were ripping on it, and he actually came forward and went like, "Look, I can do better work," but they only had so much money.
Well, wasn't there a documentary on that? The guy used to take it around to all the side shows. This might have been 10 years ago or 5 years ago. There was a documentary, and everyone was believing it. He would go out and hunt for Bigfoot, but it was, in the end, it was an effects guy who created, the skin and things like that. It's a pretty amazing documentary.
Not the original John Chambers.
No.
Oh, okay.
I've forgotten what it's called. I'll post it for you.
Well, see, the old P.T. Barnum gig, is sometimes even people will know, they'll know it's fake, but they still want to see it.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, yeah, is there anything that you guys would like to talk about? It's been a great conversation so far.
Just finished Childhood End.
Yeah, we just finished a project called Childhood's End, which is an Arthur C. Clarke novel from the 60s.
Oh, how could I forget about that? Of course, I'm really excited. I love that book. I've read it. I love Arthur C. Clarke. Can you give us the lowdown, or is it still just kind of out there?
It's still out there, but it's something that we're really excited about. We created an amazing creature that we think, and it's probably some of our coolest work. And so we're really excited about it and looking forward to it being released on the Sci-Fi channel. I think around Christmas. But it was a hard gig. It was a head to toe creature. There was no clothing to cover him, in all the joins and things like that. So it
was a prosthetic / creature suit.
Yeah, and we're really proud of the work. So that's something that hopefully the fans will look out for, and we're really looking forward.
And for the listeners who are kind of going, oh no, Sci-Fi Channel, I should clarify. Sci-Fi Channel has actually stated that they're doing a new push for more quality television series, quality movies. This is not a Sharknado level series. This is a really kind of high concept, high quality adaptation of Arthur C. Clarke's book.
Yeah,
Correct.
no, we've seen a lot of footage, and it's beautifully shot, and the actors are great, and the writing's really good. So it's not a schlocky thing.
Yeah,
Because there's things like Roger Corman did Sharktopus versus Pterosaur or Terracuda. Yeah, it's nothing like that. I entered the catchphrase contest for that, by the way. They didn't use my catchphrase, but my catchphrase for that movie was going to be, the P is silent, but they're both deadly.
I like it.
I thought it was going to win, but anyway.
Well, my favourite Roger Corman quote is that he could film the fall of the Roman Empire with 3 extras in a bush.
Yeah, I think he actually did do it, too.
he possibly did. No, but it's definitely not in that category. And when the Sci-Fi Channel guys came down here, there was that sensibility that they're taking it to a new level. And there was some great actors, and they brought on a great director, and they put the time into. Hopefully it all comes together, and it's an important book, an important story, and
How long was
hopefully we contributed really well with the character.
How long was that build?
Yeah, we were building for 11 weeks, and then we were on set for 7 weeks. So again, they put a lot of effort into us making the creatures and making them as practical as possible. So there's a good start there.
That's really great. And I did see you were posting some photos of you guys kind of working on stuff, but you couldn't show anything. Everything was either cropped off or like a little, like
making molds at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited between your own projects and this. And by the way, to the listeners, I do very much recommend Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke, as well as a lot of his other books. Um, so, anyway, yes, that sounds very exciting. I think you guys are gonna break new ground again. So I'm gonna bring us to the part of our show where we do shout outs. And essentially, well, I'll start first. And anybody that you want to shout out to, my shout out this episode is going to be to our listeners who have been great. We've been gaining more listeners all the time. Great comments, and I want to say to them, if you want to see our episodes continue on and become hopefully a documentary, Jack and I would like to do a documentary at some point soon.
Indeed.
Keep sharing this. Keep getting the word out about practical effects. We want to showcase these wonderful artists and tell the world why they are important and why it's not just about having effects be a means to an end, because you can go CGI, you can go practical, but it's about the artistry and the appreciation of the artistry. Movies are art. And there are different ways to go about doing them, and we shouldn't forsake one way of doing things just because we have a new way. And you, the listeners, the fans of practical effects, are a big part of that, and I think the momentum is being felt. So shout out to you guys. And how about our guests? Is anyone you would like to give a shout out to?
I'll just back you on what you said. That was well said. That you can go either way with any technology, but it all comes down to story and how those characters are used in the story, or it just becomes basically an art piece. But practical effects are what we grew up on, and they are having a resurgence in the past 5 years, and people are really passionate about it. And so shout out to all those people who are backing up the practical effects.
And I think programs like yours are really great, because remember, it does raise the awareness, especially of the sort of film going public and critics and everything. I remember reading years ago a review of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and the reviewer said, and the CG creatures look great. And I was like, they weren't CG.
No, they were brilliant animatronics too.
Yeah. But, if a reviewer doesn't know, which is why programs like yours are so important, because it just raises that awareness of what is practical, what is CG, and as we all agree, you use the right technique, and the combination of techniques is great.
And it's like I said, there's an article I wrote where people are exactly that way. They just look at it and go, oh, computers can do anything now, and they just think someone just kind of types it all in the computer and lets it run, which is, I'm not saying CGI isn't an art form or hard to do in itself, but everyone just kind of defaults with that attitude now.
It is. That's so true. It's a generation, that the movies are focused on now. That they grew up in this technological, growth period with VFX, so they probably don't know any of those earlier films like Paul mentioned, The Thing, and all those practical effects films of the 80s. Unless they're film buffs, they're not going to look at it. They just take what they've given at the movie complexes. So,
and they've never seen a DP on set take light readings or work out his highlight to fill ratio with with readings on a light meter. He just sort of sees them shoot digitally and think, oh, well, that's how you do it.
Yeah, it's all very it's the complexity of filmmaking. I don't think anybody will fully grasp it except for the people that are right in it. What about you, Jack? Any shout outs for you?
Well, actually, I'd like to give a shout out, of course, to everybody who supports practical effects, and mainly I want to give a shout out to all the independent filmmakers out there, because right now, and this was mentioned quite a few times during the talk, that a lot of art, be it film or effects or even just regular straight up art, has been very conservative, very safe lately, at least in the mainstream. And it's the independent filmmakers and the independent artists that are still pushing the envelope. And I really want to give out a shout out to them, and hopefully the rest of the world will catch up to these just incredible ideas that are going on in the indie scene.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah, well said, Jack. I like that. So let's do a couple of plugs here. If you want to see more of the Makeup Effects Group work, you can go to www.megeffects.com.au because they're in Australia, so you want to make sure that you get the AU in there. And
we're on Instagram, Makeup Effects Group, one word.
Makeup Effects Group on Instagram, and you guys are also on Facebook. We'll be sure to include links and videos in a little spotlight article we do on leglesscorpse.com, where The Practical People is featured. And if you want to listen to additional episodes, that's where you'll find them. I am Christopher Moonlight at christophermoonlight.blogspot.com. Also look for my film, The Quantum Terror. And Jack Ritchie, you have an alter ego. You are?
I am also known as Darkest Jack, and you can catch the Darkest Hours Terror Vision show on the Creepy Castle every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, as well as Darkest Radio on darkestjack.com every Sunday at 9.
Wonderful.
And Christopher, did you get your acronym from the Australian Bush Ranger, Captain Moonlight?
No, I wasn't aware of Captain Moonlight. I actually got it. Well, it's a long story, but Christopher Moonlight came from one of my favorite Beatles songs, Mr. Moonlight. I used to sing it to myself all the time, and it just kind of stuck. So there you go. Big Beatles fan. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, wonderful. So for leglesscorpse.com, we are The Practical People, and we will see you next time with episode 5. Have a good night or morning or rest of your day.